Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. If you had any question marks about Jon Sumrall's ability to recruit in the SEC over the last 72 hours, those question marks are quickly getting erased, right? I mean, we have a commitment to talk about that I'm a massive fan of. And I know the Florida fans going to be a fan of it too, right? Four-star defensive back Dylan Purter flipping his commitment from Lane Kiffin and LSU to them Florida Gators. I want to start with what he's been able to do retaining this 2026 cycle. Very rarely do you see a new head coach come in and be able to keep a class together. That's exactly what we've seen Jon Sumrall do. You know, we talked about it yesterday. CJ Brona, who was trending to Ohio State for the last month, signs his papers with Florida. KJ Ford, trending to Texas A&M for the last month, signs his papers with Florida. You look at Davian Gross. There was a lot of buzz around Oklahoma over the last 2 weeks. Signs his paper with Florida. And now Jon Sumrall going out and making additions to the 2026 cycle. And Dylan Purter, man, you talk about a versatile defensive back chess piece that I think could play boundary cornerback. I think he could play safety. I think he could play nickel. It's exactly what Dylan Purter brings. Now, we're going to get into Dylan Purter, but I also want to talk about some of the early vibes we're getting from Jon Sumrall. I want to talk about some offensive coordinator buzz that we're picking up on as well. Before we get into it, as always, the Florida fans, man, the amount of support from this fan base over the last 72 hours, been amazing. Can't thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And we still got a lot of storylines to talk about. You know, Jon Sumrall continuing to wrap up 2026, going out and making a very important offensive coordinator hire. We got the transfer portal coming up too. And there's some work that needs to be done, not only retaining the players on this roster, but you best believe that Jon Sumrall's going to go to the transfer portal and bring in some guys that will have impacts on this football team in 2026. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into Dylan Purter. Yeah, here's what I love most, and this is becoming something I really value. Did you have the ability to do a lot of different things, specifically in the secondary? Man, that's Dylan Purter. You turn on the high school film, he lines up as a boundary cornerback, and then he'll play a little nickel. He'll be a box safety for you. He'll be a high safety for you. He can do it all. My personal take is really like him at nickel for a couple of different reasons. One, the short area quicks. He might not be the biggest. He might not be the longest. He might not be the fastest in a straight line. Really sticky, really good short area quicks. Really, and here's the other thing. He might not be the biggest. He's a thumper, man. Like, it has zero problem getting involved in the run game. And you look at that nickel corner position, yes, you have to be able to cover, but you have to fit the run. I mean, if we're going to take a linebacker off the football field to put on another defensive back, that defensive back damn well better be able to support the run game. Dylan Purter can do that. Now, the other position I like is safety because he has some, best way to describe it is some really good instincts. Put him in the back end. He can trigger downhill and support the run, but he's also a really instinctual safety. You know, reading the quarterback's eyes, getting his hands on footballs. You're getting a lot of value here. And here's my take, because I don't know if it's going to be year one for Dylan Purter, but at some point he's going to find his way onto the football field because of all the different things he can provide for this Florida defense. Like Jon Sumrall bringing in Brad White, we want to be multiple. We want to be versatile. We want to put guys in different spots. Dylan Purter is that kind of guy, right? I love this class. I mean, it's not necessarily the most flashy and best class, but for a program that just had a coach fired and has a new coach coming in, and a new coach that is not coming from the Power Four, right? So he wasn't recruiting a ton of these players. You know, Lane Kiffin has a little bit of an advantage going to LSU because Lane Kiffin was recruiting a lot of those players at Ole Miss as well. Look, the fans don't need to be sold on Jon Sumrall yet. In fact, maybe just wait till he starts winning football games. What I think is really important is these players are clearly sold. Right, there ain't no question about that. Right, you can tell that the message that Jon Sumrall is sending to these players very clearly resonating, right? And we got two more guys that need to sign their papers, right? CJ Hester and Caden Hall. It sounds like Caden Hall is going to sign. CJ Hester, we'll see. I think Carson Baker's gone at running back, which I don't think is a massive deal. You can get a running back in the portal if you need one. Really, really impressed. And especially if you had question marks about Jon Sumrall jumping up to the SEC. Like one of the most important things to win in this conference, and I don't need to remind the Florida fans of this, is talent acquisition. Like you can be as good of a coach as you want. If you do not have the Jimmies and Joes in this conference, you ain't gonna out scheme teams that have more talent than you. You got to acquire bodies. Jon Sumrall quickly answering those question marks about what he can do acquiring talent in this conference at Florida. Other storyline here. Oh, so we've talked a little bit about Buster Faulkner. I think he would be a great hire. It sounds like he might be target number one. We've talked plenty about him, so I'm not going to get into him now. Ability to run the football, get the best out of quarterbacks. But Buster Faulkner checks all the boxes. The other name that is very, very interesting here, Brian Dabble, right? There are pros and cons. And Jon Sumrall is pretty damn clear that, hey, I want to bring in some coordinators that have NFL experience. Brian Dabble has that. Now, is he necessarily the best head coach? No. If you all follow the NFL, the New York, and I don't really, I'm not a huge NFL guy, but I follow it enough to know Brian Dabble was not a good head coach for the Giants, right? I am a Buffalo Bills fan, and I do remember him as the offensive coordinator up at Buffalo and what he did with Josh Allen. I think he can call plays. And there's 1 year of sample size of him at the collegiate ranks. That was with Nick Saban in Alabama in 2017. Go back to that year. Not only did they win a national championship, but what impressed me the most is one, we ran the football. Damian Harris had over 1,000 yards that year. Jalen Hurts got involved. Ran a really good offense with two different quarterbacks, right? Jalen Hurts had a lot of success for Alabama. They had to turn to Tua. Tua had a lot of success too. When you can do it with multiple different quarterbacks, that stands out to me. There's a lot of good offensive coordinators that kind of hitch their wagon to one quarterback and shoot up the ranks. I want offensive coordinators that have shown they can do it with multiple quarterbacks. Brian Dabble is one of those guys. Again, the downside here is the sample size of him at the collegiate level is pretty sparse. The sample size we do have is pretty damn good working at Alabama. We'll see if Brian Dabble gets any more traction. I know he's getting thrown around in the Penn State head coaching search, which is an absolute disaster. So we'll see how that plays out. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.